Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ethereum Core Dev meeting number 89. I'm your host, Hudson, and we're going to jump into the first agenda item, which is the Berlin EIP's integration update. The first link is clickable and brings you to a Google spreadsheet that shows some updates from different client teams um, that, let me open it real quick. Yeah, that show it for different clients and what's going to the latest on there. So I'll pass it over to James, who can give an update on that.
So the update there is actually the YOLO network is syncing for most clients. I'm just getting to the list. Oh, you're right, Tom. I was going through AutoMind. Which ones? Can you give an update on 2315 and 2537
Sure.
for Nethermind?
Oh, wait, I thought you said me. I was like, I guess I can
No,
ask
no.
people.
I don't know if you're here on the call, Thomas, but I just saw your messaging, or if you can talk.
I think they just joined. Oh, there they
Sorry,
are.
it's a bit loud here. It's not merged yet. I'm not sure. I haven't updated that page, so I'm not sure who did. It's work in progress.
Okay, and that's for both. Can you give updates on 2315 and 2537?
Both of them are work in progress.
Okay. And Besu, you are merged and syncing on YOLO, correct?
Yes.
And Open Ethereum as well.
Yes.
Okay, and Geth.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Has there been any updates? I'm assuming Greg is not here.
Trinity can give an update.
Oh, yeah. Is that Jason?
Let me look. Yeah, I think that it would be Jason if you're able to talk.
Just step away. I haven't been working on this project in particular. As far as I know, they're all work in progress. I thought Christoph might be on the call, but he might have more. But I don't have anything else to add for Trinity.
Okay.
I think that's it then for that item.
Yeah, like that's syncing well, and I think there'll be some updates on that we can talk about later.
Yeah, item 3 is the YOLO testnet update, so we can talk about how it actually didn't live once and a couple of other things. So the second agenda item, there was a call to discuss precompile repricing, specifically the EIPs 2046 and 2666. And I think that meeting happened. And James, I think you organized that. If you want to talk a little about it or pass it over to someone to give a update.
I did. Did Alex want to give an update on that? We have three Alexes today.
Yeah, too many Alexes here. I can make a short summary in the form that an initial proposal, a proposal to reprice static call to exactly zero gas was kind of rejected. So now I posted also in a GitHub issue a link to the latest research on how it should be actually priced based on benchmark from existing clients. Martin made a test for gas, and I have run tests for OpenAssume. And it looks like for gas, static call should be priced around 40 gas, and for OpenAssume, it can be made around 30, most likely. It still doesn't take off 2666 from the list, and also it would be necessary to change prices of BN add and BN mul in case if 2046 is accepted with even some non-zero value but small, like 40. But it's still kind of research in progress.
Yes, and another thing that we agreed upon is to try to assemble around a set of good test vectors for benchmarking so that each client can try out the set of benchmark vectors and see kind of which ones perform the worst in their implementation, and then base their do their analysis based on the worst performing one and see would we still be well, could we handle the proposed lowering of prices if blocks were filled with these vectors. And instead of trying to like compare every client against every client, just that each client gives a thumb up or thumb down, basically, if they can manage the supposed repricing. And now I'm talking about the actual precompiles, not the threshold to the static calls precompiles, but the actual individual precompiles. And Alex Blasso has been collecting these input vectors into CSV format. I made a PR for some JSON formats, and I think there are like 4 or 5 different precompiles with vectors, and I think Blasso is still working on assembling some other vectors for the remaining precompiles. And the step after that would be that, yeah, the client teams do their own benchmarking and yeah, tells the status.
For Besu, at least, that would be super valuable. Like we just didn't have the bandwidth to set up the benchmarks to do something like this. So if something is up, we're obviously happy to do the work to make Besu compatible with it and run it and report back. But having someone else kind of set up that infrastructure is really a big help for us.
Yeah, so it's not actually setting up an infrastructure, because I mean both Rust and Go and the Nethermind guys have the language has kind of built-in benchmarking capabilities. So what we're doing is that it's just collecting the input vectors.
Got it. Thanks.
I also think on the call we kind of agreed that for Berlin we target the static call repricing, and maybe we don't focus on repricing every precompile. Just get this one change in, and then we should have all this process set up to do the repricing in further hard forks.
Yeah, I remember it being is focus on static call, and then identify any outliers through testing that also need to be addressed through that chain, through the static call change, and then have and target those for being in Berlin, and afterwards addressing other precompiles that could be repriced. This is just kind of an open question, but at what point would we consider making a change for a version of YOLOnet to include like a down to 40 or 50 or something?
I personally don't see any real problem with doing it pretty shortly, because it's kind of a trivial change. But maybe we should let YOLO live for a little while longer, so people can actually interact with it.
Do other clients have thoughts on that?
No, I'm executing the benchmarks for the static call repricing, so I'll be able to most likely tell you the results today.
Okay, so let's make it a point to talk next week about next all core devs call about and decide. Basie, do you have any thoughts on that? I don't know if is there benchmarking in Java? Is that like something that becomes easy in the same way?
Are we talking about benchmarking for like filling the whole block up, or the other like the time per gas thing?
For the testing static call in your client, the real cost of static call.
Hold on, I heard my mic is horrible.
Yeah, your mic is a little bit raspy. I can understand you though. I'll follow up with the different teams about this over the next week, and then we can talk about it in the all core devs Gitter, and then maybe next week we can include it in the YOLO.
So is my mic better now?
Yeah, it's better, but it's really quiet.
Okay. Anyways, yes, I think we can get this benchmarking. We recently merged a tool that lets us do that. So yeah.
Oh, great. Oh, I still need to get you that call. I'll get that to you today.
Thank you.
He was a little bit quiet, so I'll repeat just what he said for everybody else, that the call that they merged a tool recently for doing this kind of profiling, and so they'll be able to get something pretty soon back to us. I think that's good for that, Hudson, unless anyone has other updates.
Sounds good to me. Thanks, everyone. The next one is the YOLO testnet update. I don't think YOLO was launched since we last had our call. So could someone...
One more thing first. I'm happy to do more of these EIP specific calls. So when someone has something that they think would fit for that, please reach out to me, and I can keep making those as we need them. I really like the format, and it helped progress the EIP very well. So we should do that. We should tend to do that as often as makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's great that you're willing to step up on that, and it helps us do better time management for these core dev calls, so we're not spending a large amount of time discussing specific EIPs all the time. Okay, next up is the YOLO testnet update. I don't know if we've had a call since we launched it, so if someone could give a brief overview of how the launch went, any problems we've run into, and where we're at right now with it.
Yes. So essentially, we've put together YOLO, and I think launched it on Monday, give or take. And there have been a few problems. One of the problems was me trying to be overly zealous and just pushed every single component onto a single machine. And Martin set up the machine and gave it a beefy hard drive, and I obviously didn't notice the beefy hard drive, so I put everything on the root partition. So after about 3 days, the whole thing blew up because it went out of disk. But we did fix that. Since then, however, we've seen something quirky. Mario started pushing a lot of transactions, a lot of BLS test transactions, junk transactions, essentially, he had a fuzzer corpus and just tried to push all the entire corpus into transactions and shove them into the network. And the interesting thing that happened is that essentially the signer went off on its own little world, and the signer is creating blocks, and not even Geth is accepting the blocks created by the Geth signer. So something was really quirky there. And originally I had a hunch that somehow maybe something got corrupted, although it should really not happen. Anyway, I restarted I just nuked the entire, I saved the state of the signer for debugging, and I nuked it and resynced it and started signing again. And it took about 6 blocks until it blew up again. And YOLO again, the signer is in its little own world, and no other node in the network accepts it. So that kind of means that there is some really quirky fault in Geth, in the Geth signing, where something, essentially the signer does something that is not accepted by normal block processing. So I need to check that. Apart from that, however, and maybe Martin has a bit more details. As far as I know, Marius managed to actually, he was running both an Open Ethereum node and a Besu node, I think, or never mind. I'm not sure which one of the two on the YOLO testnet. And I think both of them forked off at an earlier point. So essentially we managed, with 3 clients, we managed to do a 4-way split of the YOLO network. So I think that's...
I'm not sure, actually.
Open Ethereum actually synced to 44.215 block, to the same one as gas clients stopped syncing with this kind of his own world signer. So actually Open Ethereum and gas, at least I built Open Ethereum for master, they both sync to the same point.
Okay, cool. Then good to hear that.
I should also add here that this behavior can be nothing to do with BLS precompile, because after Marius has dumped all the test transactions to the smart contract, and smart contract is, I know the code of the contract, I deployed it. We, at least I did, and I think BLS poster for gas did. We both tested on different combinations, like like gas using assembly engine and the counterparty using the Rust implementation, and there was no divergence in results. It can be nothing to do with BLS precompile, actually.
Yeah, of course. So my point wasn't that it was the BLS precompile is the one at fault here. It was just a general status update of YOLO that this thing happened and we don't really know why and what's the cause of it. So I don't know about the other forks. Maybe Martin has a bit more information about where the other clients diverged, if they diverged. Maybe it's the same issue.
I don't have any more information now.
For Besu, it was the same. We stopped at the same block of get and Ethereum.
Okay, maybe just the error messages were different then. Cool. Anyway, so that is kind of the status of YOLO. It works. It just, for some reason, the signer really likes to screw with everybody else. And I have no idea why, because it's not something that we've ever seen before.
Okay, thanks for the update, Peter, and everybody. Anybody else have anything on YOLO or questions?
Just an observation from watching discussions around YOLO, as I've seen it been really helpful driving some more development conversations. Just watching the Aqua Dev Skitter and people talking about it. So it's something we should consider doing more, and possibly consider adding pseudo officially to the process for getting things to mainnet. Things just have moved a lot smoother since.
Actually getting code there.
Yeah, 2 things I wanted to add. One, just so I understand the signer issue, Peter, does that mean once you fix the bug in the signer, we'll have to restart YOLO, or can you just kind of swap the signer?
Maybe you don't have to restart YOLO. So it will, the sign will just discard that few blocks which the signer created and nobody accepted. Those just go to the garbage can, and otherwise the network goes forward.
Yes, I can see Besu, it's okay without restarting. So.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, sorry. This was to James' second point about multiple ephemeral testnets. I think this is something we'll probably be looking at for 1559 as well. Once we get a little bit more settled on the spec, to get this launched basically as soon as possible, to get some feedback on it, because yeah, it seems like a good way to get people actually using it and to see what breaks in like a live environment.
I actually have a question on 1559 real quick because it's not on the agenda. But Tim, do you or anyone else know if there's like anybody working on? I've seen on Twitter people are saying like we need mathematical analysis or like economic analysis on it. Is that something that's happening?
Yeah, good point. Not that I'm aware of. I think the closest thing we have right now is Barnaby from the EF working on different simulation models.
That's right.
Yeah, we don't have like a full theoretical analysis, and I know Nick Johnson has been pushing for that a lot. I'd like, so I guess this is a call. If that's your background and you want to work on 1559, please ping me and I'll make sure to put you in touch with the right people to get this started. We also have a Discord channel on the R&D server. And yeah, I think I'd like to follow up with Nick a bit more and maybe have the next 1559 call at a time that he can attend so that we can really capture his concerns there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea.
Okay. We can go to the next item on the agenda. This is the EFI EIP review, EIP 2565, repricing the EIP 198 mod EXP precompile. Kelly?
Yeah, there are just some final changes being made to the EIP draft, so it won't change. There's nothing really substantial. We're just working through some final benchmarking to make sure that there are no issues with the pricing for any of the test vectors. My estimate is that will be complete early next week and final, and we'll submit a PR to the EIP repository at that point.
Okay, great.
One question here.
Oh yeah, please.
So Kelly, because you said that you have the test vectors, and since over the weekend we set up this benchmarking for Geth for Nethermind, and I think that Alex has something for Party. Can you share the test vectors so we can run them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we have two sets. So we have the current set of, I believe, I think it's 8 to 10 test vectors that are used for the original EIP 198 right now. And then we have an expanded set of test vectors, which is like maybe an additional 100 with just random parameter values. Is one of those better to share with you guys than the other? And do you want the expanded set, or do you just want the ones that are used by the clients today?
I mean, it would be great to include the expanded set to the repository, which I have with also test vectors. So I wouldn't to generate them once, like manually once again with some another junky data.
Fantastic. Yes, then we will. Is it best? Where's the best way to put that? Is it best to put like a GIST file in the EIP directly, or is it better to share?
I think that make it just as simple as possible. Just share the text file, single text file with the inputs, and will be enough. Because like Alex's format is just one of the formats and not necessarily the best one. So we can all adjust it if you just give the inputs that you're testing, and you don't even have to get the results because it's just performance testing. So.
Oh, perfect. Great. And Tomas, what's the best place to share that? Is that on the Gitter or?
Wherever you feel it's best. Like Gitter would be good, or you can just set up some quick repo that it can be shared with. Or...
Okay, fantastic. Yes, then we will absolutely do that.
Yeah. Another question out of my curiosity: what did you decide on existing performance of OpenSeum at least? Because I think you have spent some time to find a solution for ModExp and OpenSeum and in Rust in general, as it was a little bit too slow for your repricing.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the solution that we arrived at with Open Ethereum is just to modify the pricing formula without changing the underlying library. So Artem did try, I believe, the GMP version for Rust, but unfortunately there are some compilation issues on Windows. So there actually are no major changes to the underlying library for any of the clients. It's going to be just a pricing formula change to better reflect the complexity. I believe there was a small version bump done to Open Ethereum recently, but yeah, no major changes to the library.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Kelly. Next up, item number 5.
Oh, I was talking and I was on mute.
Oh, go ahead.
So is there, so the consensus is to go with option 2, or has there been or is that now is option 1 then now the version that they're doing?
Sorry,
that
yes,
been
option 2 is correct. Which
Okay.
is yes. Yeah, so unfortunately option 1 we couldn't go with because Open Ethereum had too slow of an implementation, and so we are going with option 2.
Okay, and then you'll make an edit on the EIP to show that.
Exactly. Yeah, that should be in early next week.
I feel like we should move this into EFI because of the way the conversation has been going.
It's already in EFI.
It was?
Yep.
I don't know if we've. All right, cool.
2565.
I don't know if we ever had actually motioned to have it happen.
We did. I forgot which meeting, but yeah, no, it's in EFI.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm looking at it right now. The EIP is outdated, but we need to just look at old meeting notes and see if it's motion to go in. But I swear we did at some point.
I remember bringing it up last time, saying that we wanted to bring it up later, but then it's never like we haven't actually had the motion of doing it. We just talked about the motion of doing it.
Does anyone object to having Does anyone object to having this EIP as an EFI, meaning that it has the go ahead to be continued to be worked on and could make it into a hard fork, likely? Okay, I don't hear any dissent, and we've been following this one for a while, so and there's been a lot of good cooperation. It's a really well written EIP, so I think that it's fine to go to EFI. So that motion passes. I guess we're calling it motions now.
Oh yeah.
That's a good name for it, I guess. I just don't remember ever calling it that. Yeah, so just let's put it in EFI. Sounds good.
Good.
Awesome. Next up, we have Alex Stokes talking about an update for the ETH 2.0 deposit proxy contract that utilizes EIP 2537, the BLS curve operations. Alex, you can go ahead.
Yeah, hey everyone. Pretty straightforward. There's an initial sort of V1 of the contract. I'll go ahead and drop this in the chat here. For those who aren't aware, there's basically a really critical smart contract for ETH2, the deposit contract. And basically that's how you enter into this new system, is by putting a deposit of ETH along with some credentials into this deposit contract. There's a bit more sort of rationale in this README that I just put in the chat, but basically there's some verifications that don't happen in that contract in order to kind of keep it, easier to get correct, just given its importance. So this contract is another one that wraps it, this proxy contract. And the important thing here is that it uses the Berlin precompiles. So it's kind of a client of the precompiles, which I think is pretty nice to have that ahead of time. So generally just wanted to let people know about the contract. I'm looking for any review. So if you want to look at it from like a security standpoint, please get in touch. I'm working to deploy it to YOLO. Although, yeah, with the signer issue we talked about earlier, been having a little trouble, but it's on my to-do list. And then also working to integrate it with the ETH2 deposit tooling. So that, either every validator uses this, right, as sort of an extra insurance, or they have the option to do so, or something like this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And if anyone has any questions or anything, I'm happy to take them.
Okay, anyone have any questions?
So assuming, I guess just to make sure I understand, this is really a proxy contract and not a verifier, right? Where you actually send the funds through that contract and it relays them to the deposit contract rather than just verifying your inputs, right?
Right. So yeah, there's different ways to break it up. Right now, what the contract does is you send the full deposit along with the ETH, And so when I say full deposit, I mean like their credentials that end up going into the ETH2 system. So all of that data plus the ETH goes to this contract. This contract verifies the BLS signature to make sure that's correct. Because that's what we've been seeing, is that basically, there's been some incorrect, signature creation, and then that leads to an invalid deposit, and then the ETH is basically lost. So this contract helps, because then when it does is check the BLS signature. If that all passes and it looks good, it then does a call for you to the deposit contract itself. So it wraps it in a sense. If it turns out that like it takes too much gas to do it this way or something, we could actually, split it out so that the verification lives sort of, alongside, but then the actual call to the deposit contract is, done by yourself separately.
Great. Okay, that's really valuable. And I guess my other question is there a plan for like a formal audit? I don't know who audited the deposit contract for like the original one, but is there a plan for like a similar security audits by the same folks?
Right. Yeah, I mean, especially if we move ahead integrating this with like sort of the more formal ETH2 deposit tooling, then yeah, we'd want to look at pretty seriously. There's not currently a plan. There could be a plan. I think Runtime Verification, I believe, did the initial deposit contract. So we might reach out to them, but yeah, really anyone who'd want to look at it.
Great, thanks.
The upside is it's like pretty simple and straightforward, so it's not that wild.
All right, other questions? There is a Telegram channel that's dedicated to this contract and looking for gas optimizations and bugs. It already has a handful of people in there from the Solidity and security community looking at it, but it's very ad hoc right now, and so we could definitely use more help just looking over it. And if you're interested, reach out to myself or Alex, and we can add you to that. Or if you are listening in on the call and want to help, reach out to us, especially if you're someone who could do an audit for it and stuff like that. So thanks for the update, Alex, and we can move on to the next item on the agenda, number 6, account abstraction research update with Will. Go right ahead.
Hey everyone, just want to give a quick update on our progress. The initial spec that Vitalik had put together, which has some limitations, we just finished putting an MVP or putting that together in Geth. So we have passing tests and internal AA testnet right now. Additionally, we have a tool that is propagating the transactions through and used as a measurement tool. So we're collecting metrics right now and cleaning up and doing everything around that. So we plan on starting a bit more communication with the community soon around this. We'll likely have a call, and we'll be doing a write-up in the next couple of weeks, especially looking at the data and the metrics that we get from this. One thing to stress: this is overall a feasibility study. We'd like to explore the possibility of bringing this into ETH, into ETH1X, but right now this is a feasibility study, and of course there's no guarantee until we get a bit more people involved in discussing, but we are, I guess we believe we're showing strong feasibility at this current time. And so we'll be expanding this shortly to go beyond what the initial proposal was and support multiple transactions per account. But we will be doing a bit more research and some write-ups and some updates on that soon. So just want to keep you guys up to date on what we've been doing. And I think we'll have a bit more meat for people to process and digest here in the next couple of weeks. And hopefully that should spark good discussion overall. So, yeah.
Okay, any questions or comments on that, anybody?
We've also been exploring how that intersects with the general discussion on meta transactions as well, and how account abstraction overlaps with that. We've been involved in the discussion on ETH research recently, we kind of see it all under the same similar umbrella as well. So we've also been putting effort and time into that.
Did you see the updated version of the oil and gas proposal from Alexi that talks about meta transactions?
We did. We responded to that, and then we posted a new post on ETH research that continues to expand on some of those discussions as well.
Great.
All right. And if anyone wants to go back over what Will just discussed or go to any of the links for the spec or the discussion on ETH research, it's in the agenda, it's the latest comment that was posted about half an hour ago. I think that also includes... can you post a link in the agenda or in here to the spec you made in Geth, Will? Or to the implementation you made in your fork of Geth?
Oh, yeah, we were gonna put up I can put a link. Give me one moment.
Perfect. All right, thanks for that. And if there's nothing else, we'll go to the next update. This is James. He made a calendar. Let's talk about it.
I made a calendar. It started as being for the all core dev calls and then has since expanded to include ETH2 calls and EIP IP stuff. And it's a publicly followable calendar managed through Google. But you can also use other you can use other clients to do it. So anyone who wants to follow or be added on the list so you get emails to remind you to attend calls, I am happy to add you.
Okay, thanks for that. Next up, we have item 8, testing updates. Anyone have anything testing-wise that they want to discuss about their clients or the ecosystem?
Yeah. So one thing I would like to mention is that it would be really nice if we can do fast testing on using state tests instead of shoving things to YOLO. And I'm not really sure about the clients have implemented some state test support for YOLO. Geth has. I'm not sure about the other clients. But it would be really nice if you guys can do that because it would make the fast testing a lot more efficient. That was it.
What would it take to do that?
Good question. So state tests have, well, they basically encapsulate a transformation from one state to the next, and they have the pre-state, they have the transactions that should be applied to said pre-state, and they also contain something called, well, the expected post-state hash, but we don't care about that for fuzzing because we look at the actual instructions executed and compare them one by one. And in order for, so the state test, besides these things, it also has a little string where it says what rules it wants to be applied. And these rules can typically be Constantinople, Frontier, or Byzantium. And in Geth, so I made a proposal, I think maybe 2 years ago, that clients should accept names on the form Constantinople plus 2315. And I'm quite certain that no one actually implemented that aside from us. But the second best alternative is, yeah, if we just add YOLO 1, so we can have a state test, but the network name is YOLO V1 or YOLO 1 or whatever, preferably the same thing that Geth has, because otherwise things get messy. And then just, yeah, the YOLO chain rules are active at that transition. So if you already have implemented state test, then it should be fairly trivial to do this.
Okay. Anyone else have questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we'll be there probably quite soon because we wanted to finalize this Hive work to execute the consensus test from Hive, and then we'll be able to add the new tests for the new EIPs. I'm not sure if I've added this support for the additional EIPs, but we can add it as well, I think, thinking of the code, if that's not yet there. So yeah, I hope that soon we'll have state test results for you.
Much appreciated. Thanks.
I think we should add some of that language and to the YOLO EIP, perhaps Martin, something we could follow up on. Writing those out and then tracking state tests based on client for client.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Next up, we have review previous decisions made and action items. The notes have been merged. If you refresh the page, it should work. The link to the notes. So for decisions made last time, 88.1 is the state test for YOLO v1 should be regenerated under that name and should not carry the Berlin name. And 88.2 was the opcode change proposal to be implemented. That's a little vague. We might want to be a little more specific about that one. I forgot which one that would even was for last meeting, but we can move on. 88.1, this is on actions required. James Hancock to continue to update the Berlin and YOLO EIPs, including commit hashes. That's been ongoing, right, James?
Yep, that happened.
Ephemeral testnet EIP to be merged, 88.2. That has happened. 88.3, James to follow up with Open Ethereum, Axic, and Martin to discuss EIP 2315 after the call.
Yes.
88.4, Axic to make a PR to update opcodes for EIP 2315. I believe that happened too. Did that happen, Alex, Axic, the PR to update the opcodes for 2315?
Yes, Martin did it.
That's right. 88.5, James Hancock to coordinate with Axic and interested parties about pre-compile gas cost changes call. That happened. 88.6, Kelly to continue working with Open Ethereum on EIP 2565. That has been resolved and the EIP will be updated, right, Kelly?
Correct.
Okay. I did do a great job of writing down the decisions made and actions required today, but it sounds like what was the one that was on the tip of my tongue?
The EFI for
EFI for EIP 2565 to be moved to EFI officially, and the EIP to be updated. That was the main one.
Following up on state tests for clients and how that relates to YOLO.
Okay, and is that something for Martin, you, or someone else?
That's something for me to follow up.
Okay.
With Martin and others.
Okay, so James Hancock to follow up with Martin and other clients on state transition test. Was that what it was?
Yep. The next call, look at adding the precompile gas cost reduction to YOLO.
Okay. Next call, add gas cost precompile reduction to YOLO.
Well, evaluate it.
Or
we should have
evaluate,
that discussion then. Yeah.
Sure. Other people, is there any decisions made or actions required for this meeting that people have?
Yeah, I think there were two testing things. So there's the state test, but there's also the test vectors for the precompiles, and those are two different things, right?
Yes.
Test precompiles going to, who was it that requested those? Is that you, Besu?
Yeah, so we'll need to look into those, and we'll probably reach out as we're doing it.
Okay, that's another one. Anybody else? Okay. Does anyone have any final agenda items that we haven't gone over, things they want to say before we end the call super early?
I'm on vacation next week, so I'll likely get to this when I get back.
Cool.
Get to a lot of these things.
Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.
A very quick update on YOLO. So I've been digging into what the issue might be, and it turned out that essentially the signer was not YOLO enabled, so it was running an old version of Geth, and apparently for some reason DNS resolution doesn't work currently on that machine, and that's why Docker actually failed to pull a fresh version of Geth. So fun fact, that's why the signer went off on its own little world, because it actually didn't have the YOLO forks enabled. So we're trying to fix that. But
this is super strange, because if it didn't have the YOLO enabled at all, and both me and Virus, what we did, we just spammed the contract which calls the precompiles which are part of the YOLO, and we also taken the output data from the call and compared them to expected output of the precompile, and those tests passed. So maybe it did use some older version of like precompile code or YOLO features, but if it didn't have YOLO features enabled at all, I would expect those transactions to fail immediately.
Yes, it's complicated.
You should get an output from them at least, but
yeah.
So can I just finish, please? The signer, when originally I deployed it with my own custom build. Then when the whole thing went out of disk, it switched back to the default version of Geth, which was old and didn't have it enabled. So that's why it started failing after 45,000 blocks. If you are running old version of Geth, that is already enabled in any new version of Geth that you have locally running. It's only about the signer, which is running an ancient version of Geth that happened to be on the machine.
Oh, okay. So the switch to the version which didn't have YOLO features happened at some point, not at the start of the chain.
No, it was in middle when the whole network got stuck and we rebooted the signer, then it switched to the old version, because then it didn't occur to me that the Geth version on that machine is ancient. And since for some reason DNS resolution doesn't work on that machine, Docker didn't manage to pull a fresh one. It's a bit of a clusterfuck, but I just wanted to say that we're sorting it out.
Oh, okay. Well, then that explains perfectly at least what it was an observable behavior.
Okay, anybody else have anything final?
It's a good reminder, like dApp developers shouldn't be looking at YOLO to test their things unless you are actively working on the EIPs, helping evaluate them, or a client integration testing.
Cool. And you're just saying that so people don't deploy their dApps and think it'll stick around, right?
Yep. Yeah, I'm just sending it out many times so eventually everybody understands.
Yeah, that's why we call it an ephemeral testnet, which is a very meta name. Okay, sounds like that's everything. The next meeting's going to be June 26th, 1400 UTC. Thanks everyone for coming. This was a great meeting. Everyone have a great day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
You too, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Bye.